Well, guys, Happy New Year. It is January 1st, 2024, the start of the Three Rivers Pantry Challenge. And today, I slept in. So we're already behind schedule, which, that's okay though, because it's a holiday, there's no pressure. This morning, we are starting off with making a big batch of granola because we're having yogurt and granola with some fruit and jam for breakfast, because this afternoon we are off to a family gathering that's going to be kind of potluck, fingery foods, and I know we're going to be eating a lot. So today we're going to keep breakfast light. One thing that we do make every week, yogurt and granola. Hopefully following a vague meal plan, although I'm already breaking that because I said this morning was going to be omelets. But at that time, we didn't actually know we were going to function in the afternoon. So we're down in the pantry because we need a few things for our big batch of granola. One of those items, sunflower seeds, large flake oats, and I'm also taking up a bag of brown sugar because I think that making this recipe will use the last of my brown sugar up there, so I can just put it into my jars upstairs. So that's it for down here. Let's get back upstairs and get this made because we're already late. So as I mentioned downstairs, we are making granola first thing this morning. It's a wonderful chocolate granola. It's a favorite around here. And I'm just going to quickly go through the recipe as we bung this all together. I've already preheated my oven to 325. So you're going to bake this for about 25 minutes, give or take. Keep an eye on it after the 20-minute mark and then let it cool and it's ready to go. So what's in this recipe? 3 cups of large flake oats, 1 cup of quick oats, half a cup of cocoa, half a cup of sunflower seeds. Now you could substitute these seeds for something else if you really want to. 3 tablespoons of seeds. I'm using a mixed seeds, which includes flax and hemp and poppy seeds. So the recipe calls for a nut butter for this. We're going to use 1/3 of a cup. Now, normally we would make this with just regular butter so that it's a nut-free product for the kids to take to school in lunches. But today, we actually finished off our container of all-natural peanut butter, which does mean we're going to have to get another one out of the pantry on the first day of the challenge. But hey, that's what it's all about, right? Seeing if it works. Then you want 3/4 of a cup of syrup. I tend to do a mixture of corn syrup and maple syrup, only because maple syrup is at a higher premium here, and that does keep it a little bit more on a budget. Half a cup of oil, 3/8 of a cup of brown sugar, 1 tablespoon of vanilla, and then we're going to put 3/4 of a cup of chocolate chips in it afterwards. After we take it out of the oven, we're just going to sprinkle those on top and they just kind of melt in. It's wonderful. And at the same time, we're going to sprinkle it all with a bit of sea salt. It's wonderful, wonderful. Definitely try this recipe. So now that we have both our dry and wet ingredients mixed in, we're going to pour them together and stir it up. Peanut butter was very yummy smelling, but it didn't break down as well as butter normally does. And you want to spread this out kind of in as thin of a layer as you can. I'm basically working on a 16 by 20 sheet here to give you an idea of what size you would need. And I recommend using parchment paper, or if you have the reusable type of parchment paper, because this can stick and get messy. All right, there we are. So I've taken it out of the oven. It's still very, very hot, but flaky. We're just going to kind of stir it up a little bit and let it cool. It'll go crunchy as it cools. I'm going to give it 10 minutes, and then I'm going to sprinkle it with a couple handfuls of chocolate chips, and then we're going to enjoy breakfast.
Well, I'm going to grab another yogurt for breakfast, but as you can see, it's almost time to make more.
We're going to be using homemade raspberry jam. No pectin added to this, which is what we love for our yogurt. So you can see I have scattered our chocolate chips on top. It still needs a little bit more time to set, but we are wasting daylight, so we're going to eat it anyways a little bit warm in our yogurt this morning, but it's going to be amazing by the time we package it up. So let's get this homemade yogurt in there. So basically 2 tablespoons of jam, and oh, actually it did crisp up. I don't know if you can capture that. It did go quite crispy. Look at that. So anyways, we just take a spatula full and ta-da! Breakfast. Well, we are about to head out for our New Year's afternoon get-together, potluck, luncheon, whatever you want to call it. We've got our charcuterie boards all cut up and done and ready to go. So that's what we're taking, is 2 of these. Yummy, the chorizo sausage you saw in our grocery haul. and a lot of homemade pickled items, things like that from the pantry. So that is awesome. But one thing I wanted to show you before we left, there's our granola. All crispy in there. It is delicious. Hang on here. Hear it? So that recipe, if we hadn't taken any out this morning, would have filled a 2-liter container. It's a really great recipe for lasting us for the week, for any kind of breakfast and treats and stuff like that. So on that note, we're heading out. I highly doubt there's going to be any dinner today because we're probably just going to snack the whole afternoon long. So we will see you tomorrow morning. All right, so we are well into day 2 of the first week of the Pantry Challenge. And this morning has been kind of whirlwind. We got going. We made a wonderful skillet with our homegrown potatoes and our eggs. And there was some onions and peppers and all sorts of good spices in there. And it was a real big hit. We did have a lot of leftover cheese from our cheese trays that we took, or our charcuterie boards that we took to dinner yesterday. So we used some of that up on top. So it was kind of a real splurge. It was this beautiful cheesy mass on top, which was a super, super tasty treat. So we were busy with chores this morning, and now we're on to lunchtime, and we're going to be doing a super simple lunch today. We're going to be taking 2-quart jars of our southwestern vegetable soup out, and we're going to put some of the leftover chorizo meats and things like that we had from, again, dinner yesterday. We're going to kind of fry that up a little bit and then put the soup on top. It'll just make a little bit of a spicier flavor. It's going to be perfect, I think. So everybody loves that soup. So that's what we're going with today. Super easy, but again, shows you how quickly these jars can disappear, because if we're using 2 for lunch and probably a couple for dinner, you need a lot of jars of food. And while that's warming up for lunch, I'm going to quickly take the rest of the meat off of our turkey that we had cooked over the holidays and get these bones into my big stock pot, and we're going to make some turkey broth so that we can get some turkey soup made tomorrow. I love turkey soup at this time of the year, and it's one of those things that we don't have it all the time because we don't raise turkeys. But this was kind of a splurge of the holiday season, and if we can make it go more meals, hey, it all counts. All right, so our soup is just about ready to be dished up, but I managed to get my broth all started and going. And look at that. Still managed. It's probably 4 or 5 cups of turkey that came off that in like little pieces and stuff that we just hadn't eaten yet. In my broth, I make a very simple broth. I use pretty much the same recipe no matter what kind of meat I do. It is 2 carrots, 2 onions, 2 stalks of celery, a tablespoon of salt, however much pepper you feel like putting in, and we always bung a little bit of garlic in there as well, and 2 bay leaves. 8 liters of water. And we're just going to let this simmer down. It'll probably make us 6 quarts, maybe not quite. We'll see how it goes. But that's the basic recipe. It is so simple, and I love it. And if you want to add some other little things like sage or thyme or anything like that, it's super easy to do. We have fresh rosemary. I might throw that in here just because we have it. But all in all, we're going to now let this cook, probably simmering for probably 6 to 8 hours.
So just because we're on the Pantry Challenge doesn't mean we can't have a treat. So today I'm going to be making lemonade for the first time from one of my favorite Christmas gifts. I got an Anne of Green Gables cooking book. Shout out to Mom and Dad. Thank you very much for the book. I am very excited. This is going to be my first recipe. So what our ingredients are for our treat today is 1.5 cups of sugar, 1.5 cups of water, a finely grated peel of 1 lemon, 1.5 cups of lemon juice, and then we have a 1/2 cup of grenadine syrup, which is optional if you want to make pink lemonade. Just so you know, I forgot to say, instead of this being a lemonade recipe, it's more of like a lemonade syrup or a concentrate that you would save and you can put in the fridge for 2 to 3 weeks. That's about how long it lasts, and you can just put it into water however much you want. So I just put our first 3 ingredients, the sugar, the water, and the finely grated lemon, into a saucepan. So we are going to turn this on. We are going to stir this constantly for about 5 minutes and let it boil so the sugar disintegrates so it isn't as grainy. Now that we have taken our mixture off of the element, it has to cool. With just a few steps left, we are going to pour our 1.5 cups of lemon juice into our mixture, and we're going to stir that around. I also wanted to make it into 2 jars, that way, because the grenadine syrup is for the pink lemonade. and I wanted to try them both to see which one I liked better, and the rest of my family, but mostly me because I made it. It's a little bit darker brown because we use raw cane sugar instead of white sugar. If you wanted it to be more of a lemonade color or a pink lemonade color, then you would use white sugar. So after finishing our first jar, this is about what it looks like. It's a concentrate, looks beautiful. But I didn't quite fill this one as full, because this is the one I'm going to put the grenadine in. If you wanted to do the full batch of pink lemonade, you would have about a half cup, but we wanted to do half and half. So I decided to half it and do about a quarter cup. I'm just going to put the lids on these, shake it so it all looks pink. And then you can see the difference about how much more pink this one looks compared to that one.
Well, now that Alex has made us a wonderful drink for dinner, I have to get started on making dinner. And tonight, we're going to be cooking up that lamb that we marinated in the extra teriyaki sauce. Now, I suppose I didn't actually talk about that on this because this is actually from the freezer challenge video. But what we did was we made beef jerky. It's not beef jerky. We made lamb jerky and we did teriyaki flavoring on it, or marinade. And we had a lot of marinade left and we thought, well, let's just save a chunk of meat and we'll chop it up and we'll put it into the marinade to make a stir fry. So that's where we're at. This has been marinating now for 2.5 days, but that's okay. It's going to be super tasty, I'm sure. So first step, we're going to put a bit of sesame oil in the pan, chop up some onions, some peppers, and get, well, the peppers are already chopped. They're from the freezer. And I've also got some peas, some snap peas in the freezer that I want to use for this. And we'll see what else we can come up with. And here we are, once again, digging in the freezer, trying to find stuff. This is like the story of my life. Digging through the freezer. Oh, let's put some lima beans in there. That might be quite good. They're also looking a little bit worse for wear. Anyways, so we're going to use those up. And that is some of our summer squash, I believe. That's what it looks like, of course, unlabeled. We're going to put some of that in there. But basically, we're just going to throw a whole bunch of stuff in the pot. Flavoring is already on this meat, and there's a whole bunch of extra juice, which we're just going to kind of simmer in this meat. We're going to cook it up with rice, and all of it's going to go in, and it's going to be wonderful. And I'm just going to use up the remainder of this store-bought bag of green peas. And we also have the last of this bag of peppers from the garden here that we're going to use up. So that's getting a few things out of the freezer. Not necessarily the things I was looking for, but that's okay. That's the beauty of it. It's kind of just dive in, see what you find, and get making something tasty. So our meal here is bubbling away and fantastic. I did give a little taste test to it, and I kind of was like, you know what? It needs a little something more. And I remembered I had pulled this out of the big pantry downstairs earlier this week during our pantry tour because I'd found it right at the back, well expired. So I'm not even going to tell you the date on this, but I did add it to our teriyaki sauce because it needs to be used up, and that's what the pantry challenge is all about. And it's unbelievably tasty now. Now I remember why I bought this sauce. I need to look up and see if I can make a canning recipe for something like this. I do can Thai sauce and I can chili sauce. And sometimes we combine the two of them and it sort of resembles a sweet chili heat type sauce, but it never is perfect. So if anybody has a recipe out there or a link to a recipe that they know will make that, I would love to know about it. And we basically always just put our rice right in, make it into a nice, easy, all one pot meal, and everybody just pretty much helps themselves. Again, potatoes, eggs, onions, peppers, and lots of that awesome cheese that we have left over from New Year's. Nope, nothing boring around here. We certainly don't eat the same thing every day for breakfast.
So for lunch today, we will need to get our ingredients for chili. What we will need today for our ingredients is 2 cans of beans, 1 can of chili meat, 1 chili sauce, and if you want, you can do an August stew.
This was actually our final day of, quote, holidays with Chris off work. So we were late having breakfast. So now we're late having lunch. We're at about 2:30. So we're going to be making a big pot of chili. As you just seen, Alex was downstairs and she's gathered up all the things she wants to put in this chili, and that is why we have to can so many jars, because I believe she's pulled out about 5 jars of food, maybe even 6, to make this chili.
Step 1, we have to rinse our beans. I brought 2 packs of beans up. I had one that was a mixed beans and one that was a kidney bean. So I'm going to rinse those.
While Alex is washing our beans, you can hear her making a whole bunch of clatter in the background. I'm going to get our meat out. This meat already has in it the onions and spices for chili. Everything's in there, which I love because it just makes it simple to just bung a bunch of pots together.
We finished rinsing our first can of beans, so we're going to put those in.
1 jar of August stew. Now, sometimes I will strain the extra liquid out of this, but this time I'm not going to because we have a lot of beans going into this chili. But the August stew is just a wonderful mixture of all those great vegetables that you can put away in the middle of summer. We've got potatoes, carrots, peas, beans, squash, onions, celery, just everything all in a bit of a tomato sauce. It works as a perfect filler for so many things, and we go through a lot of that stew every year.
The mixed beans are now finished, so we're going to put those in. So with our chili sauce, we're just going to put half of this in. Last but not least, we have some corn. I personally think that I am very lucky to be able to have so many canned goods down in the basement to be able to throw together to make a quick, easy, and very delicious meal.
So yesterday we took 2 sheep to our local abattoir, and they have a little kind of, I'm not gonna say corner store, but it's a local product store. And in there they sell the honey from our local producer. So we did, like we mentioned in our pantry tour, we did stop and buy the 2 more honey that we felt we needed to see us through probably actually till summer, not just the pantry challenge. But these were $16 each for a kg. That's kind of the going rate for honey here. And we're glad to have these in. They may not get used during the pantry challenge, but we did want to make sure we had them because honey is a very volatile thing and it can have good years and bad years. So it's better to have it than not to have it. Don't need to cook dinner. Why not take on a big project, right? So we're going to take that turkey broth that we made the other day and we're going to turn this into the turkey barley soup. Basically, this is following the same recipe as my chicken barley soup, which I will link that video above, or you can go look for it in a playlist. I'm going to quickly go through the ingredients here, but I'm not going to show you too much of the process because, well, this is just supposed to be showing you what we've done during the pantry challenge. First thing going in the pot, 6 cups of carrots. The recipe actually only calls for 4 cups of chopped onions, but I got a little overzealous, so we probably have closer to 5. One thing that we are adding to the recipe that is not normally in it is garlic, because we are garlic fiends and we have a lot of garlic to use up. So I'm not even going to hazard a guess. It's probably 3 tablespoons of chopped up garlic. And besides spices, our last ingredient is going to be celery. So I've used 2 cups of store-bought celery, but that's not enough because the recipe calls for 3 cups. So what I'm using instead is some celery leaves that we dehydrated over the growing season in 2023. We have quite a few jars of these and they are fantastic for soups, stews, flavorings, all that sort of stuff. Doesn't add bulk, but the flavor is there and it works great for just this type of thing. And that'll make my 1 little pack of celery go a little further in this pantry challenge. So I'll be honest, I'm guesstimating because I have no idea how dried celery compares to fresh celery. I'm just going to go with a couple tablespoons extra in there. That should make up our cup that we were missing. So 2 cups of barley. I'm using a mixture of pot barley and pearl barley because that's what I had open and on the go. And this challenge is all about using stuff up. So not sure exactly what the difference is, but somehow we ended up buying a pot barley instead of a pearl barley, and now it's all gone. 2 tablespoons of salt and 2 teaspoons of pepper, 2 teaspoons of dried basil, and 2 teaspoons of summer savory. And basically that's everything in here except for our turkey. You haven't seen us put that in yet, but because it's cooked, I'm just going to put that in right before I jar this up. So we're going to get this to a boil. Going to let it boil for 5-10 minutes. Add our turkey and jar it up and get it in the pressure canner. So do remember, this is a pressure canning recipe And if you want to see more about this recipe, check out the video. All right, you can hear the pressure canner bubbling away. It is almost pressurized in there and we're almost ready to put our weight on. But what I wanted to show you was we made 7-quart jars, which are in the canner, and we probably have 1.5 to 2 quarts of the soup still left, which I'm simmering on the stove here. And that's going to basically feed Chris and I for tomorrow. So that's how I like to cook. Make a big batch and make it count. Well, we've been busy canning away. It is now 9:30 at night. We didn't have any extra chili, so we're going for a quick little veggie and cheese snack for tonight as kind of dinner / bedtime snack, along with some of our home canned tomato juice. We love the yellow tomato juice, and hopefully this year we'll be able to feature that in a video with a recipe, because that's a tasty one and a focus for this year's garden. For lunch, as promised, turkey barley soup, and it is absolutely delicious. I can't get over how yummy this is. Turkey is a real treat every now and then. Well, we are on our final meal of day 4 of the Pantry Challenge. And as previously discussed, we're going to do these videos 2 per week. So this is the last meal for the first video of the Pantry Challenge for 2024. And we are using butter chicken curry that we had left over from a canning exercise. And I didn't have enough to fill the jar. So what did that involve exactly? Rice. And as you can see, we pretty much emptied our container. So we're going to be raiding the pantry to fill this back up this week. Well, as we're making dinner today, we thought, let's have a nice little drink with our meal. So we're having some of our homemade apple liqueur. And in Pantry Challenge fashion, this is actually apple liqueur that we made September 20th, 2022. And it's just been sitting downstairs in the pantry. So we're going to finally get this strained into bottles and have a drink. And here we go. Our last meal for the first 4 days. Look at that. Butter chicken curry. Made with rabbit, of course. With some beets on top. We like to really mix it up here. But it tastes delicious. I already have to admit, I snuck ahead and tried some. And to top it off, our homemade apple liqueur is going to go wonderfully paired with this. A really odd combination, I know. But what can we say? We're odd folks.